I call this meeting to order for Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Susan Payne,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sharon McDonald,
Here.
Commissioner Mark Tapley,
Here.
Commissioner Josh Reardon,
Here.
Commissioner Stephen Burnett,
Here.
Commissioner Warren Robinson,
Here.
Commissioner Nick Paul,
Here.
City Manager Rick Holden,
Here.
City Attorney Ashley Smith.
Here.
The clerk is present. Madam Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. We're going to begin with the invocation given by Pastor Justin Crispin of the Worship Center, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Paul.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we first want to just pause and thank you for all the blessings. Sometimes we can be just so ungrateful and see what we lack as a city and as a state and as a country, but we just want to pause and say thank you for all the freedom that you've given us. The wonderful weather we've been receiving. We pray for rain, though. But Lord, I just pray, God, that we'll continue as we move forward as a city, that we will be a good steward of what you've blessed us with. And so we pray for every leadership, we pray for their families, and we pray blessings over their lives. And we pray for your presence to empower us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, we were supposed to start with a presentation. We're going to pull that and revisit that at a later date. And with that, we will move on to public comment. I have one person signed up. Ken Lucas?
Did we do the approval of the agenda? I'm sorry.
I never want to approve the agenda, ever. Sorry. Anyway, all right, let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
A motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Burnett. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And I apologize for that. We're going to chalk it off to being under the weather. Anyway, now we will move on to public comment. Ken Lucas, if you want to come up, sir, state your name for the record, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ken Lucas, and I'm here to talk about the Rocket City Fun Center. I fully understand the city's current options on what they plan to do with Rocket City, but I'm asking you to consider a little variation of the city maintaining ownership, and that's the key to what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest that you consider removing the existing free-fall pin setters. That's the traditional bowling machines that, go up and down and whatnot, with string pin setters, which are like the newest thing. And the reason for that, there's a $425,000 to $475,000 upfront cost that would pay for itself with labor, utility, and maintenance cost savings in around 5 years. These machines are almost maintenance-free. The savings would be over $100,000 between labor for people that you wouldn't have to have working, and for the maintenance of the machines, which run about $500 a month. That's the industry standard, so you wouldn't have to worry about most of that. And there's a 70% utility savings over free-fall pin setters, so the electric bill would be less. You do the math. I did send 2 cost estimates to Mrs. Hernandez. And I just want to mention, I don't know what you plan to do with the restaurant. I would say consider leasing it, but I saw in one of your items that wasn't really a favorable option. So I said, so consider the city not owning the property, but also managing it under the Parks and Rec Department. Sun City and Sun City West in Arizona own and operate their 3 bowling centers. and they do it, and they are well-run, and they are profitable. And I know this because I lived there. That's where we moved to, back to Alamo, or from. I'm certain someone from their recreation department would work with you on the details of setting this up, if that was necessary. Consider renaming the Fun Center once it reopens. Consider something like Gordo's Mesa Ridge Fun Center or Gordo's A to Zia Fun Center. I suggest rebranding it because I saw all the bad reviews today. I was looking up, and I'm afraid that with the name, current name, it's going to, people will remember that. And in closing, I want to say if it's managed properly by the city, Rocket City could generate a lot of revenue, and you could promote it along with the other attractions in the area. Rocket City has the only bowling lanes within 50 miles that are available anytime to civilians. We have White Sands, we have Holloman, but they're restricted access. And lastly, if you do maintain ownership and decide not to do anything with my suggestion, I would strongly consider you bring someone in to examine the equipment in the bowling center, the lanes and the machines themselves, because a lot of the comments, even from when the place first opened, was about that the lanes didn't work very well. And, that's a big customer complaint, and they have to wait and wait and wait. And that's what they wouldn't have to do with the string pin setters, because they can be fixed by anybody from the kitchen to the front counter, because they're relatively maintenance-free. So I know there's a lot of other needs for your money. I'm familiar with your water situation. I read on that yesterday. And I'm just hoping you strongly consider this option. But it would require the city to own and manage with a city employee and make it work, and it could work. So,
Thank you.
okay.
I have heard about those other,
Oh, good.
yeah.
If
Yes.
you have any questions or need anything else from me, feel free to get a hold of me.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. Okay. That was all I had for public comment. We're going to move on to the city manager's report.
Honorable Mayor, members of the commission, a few things tonight. 22 detention ponds later at Lake Bonito there, we have actually done really well. Dave talked to me today. He was up there in the middle of a flood today, and all of those ponds are full of water and debris, the debris of which has not made it to the lake yet. So we have done tremendous work up there getting that done, and for the time being, it looks like it's been worth every penny we've spent and all the effort that we've had to get it done. So everything was looking good today up there, and there was significant water coming through there today. Today, a little bit earlier, we had a situation occur, and I just want to make you aware of it. We have removed the pavilion at the end of this block of Oregon, where I know we've had Ms. Braswell and Ms. Hernandez have spoken many times about that pavilion and the issues that we've had with our school kids over there. We have determined that we were going to repurpose that. We have a request from all of the property owners out at the Silverado Edition for a park out there, and so we're going to put that pavilion out there that will get great use and benefit that community very well. But today, there was somebody out there that came up and made some pretty dramatic threats against our staff out there and against employees at City Hall. And so we've made the police department aware of that, and there's no place for that. The individual left on foot prior to the police department being able to arrive. But we're trying to clean that area up. As you well know, we've had a lot of trouble out there. We have a lot of parking issues up and down Oregon. And this year when school starts, we're going to be very aggressive about traffic enforcement. We already have signs posted here. We're going to post signs in all of the east-west streets to keep kids from parking in those neighborhoods. So it's going to be quite interesting, but I did want you to know that we had some pretty dramatic action today over there as a result of our guys out there doing their jobs. Finally, the last thing I want to mention tonight is that we are going to have a staff assistant. We have hired Anna Martinez, and hopefully she will start next Monday if everything gets completed with HR this week. So we appreciate your patience during the last few weeks while we've had a vacancy in there. But we will get Anna in there, and we'll get started back on the reports and things back to you on a regular basis. So that concludes the remarks for tonight.
Thank you. I'm glad everybody's safe. All right, we're going to move on to remarks and inquiries by the City Commission.
Just got one quick
Commissioner Reardon.
one. Now that we've got the water rate deal situated, do we have some sort of a plan in place, or can you guys bring it forward to us as far as how we're going to implement spending that money, what we're going to start on? One of the big reasons that I supported it was because we've been told we don't have the water money to do our roads. So I just kind of want to know where we're heading, because I don't know how everybody else is, but I've caught a lot of heat off of this. Phone calls, emails, people catching you out in the public.
I don't think there's any argument about that, Commissioner. We will take the report and all of the presentations that were made that were the basis for this, and we will put together a plan, because as you recall, it will take place over an extended period. It's not all things that will happen in 2024 or 5 or 26 even, but we will get that prepared for you, try to get that possibly by the next meeting. And if not, the first meeting in August, we'll try to get you something that you can see more specifically about that plan.
Yeah, I think, the rate increase, it really hasn't hit until
No.
people start getting their bills this coming month, or in this month or next month. And if they start seeing some action around town, it'll be a little easier for them to swallow.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
let me add one thing too, because a couple of you have commented, sent requests that you had, and some of you may have gotten another request with regard to the sewer portion of the bill, and so we've been asked to look at that specifically, and so we'll address that also, so that you can see exactly what that's about and what options, if any, that you choose as a commission to take in that regard. But I do know I got emails from at least 2 of you, and others may have gotten it and didn't forward them, but we're going to work on a response for that also. And that's specifically for the sewer portion.
Anybody else?
Well, this is the final announcement for the cleanup, which is going to take place on July 20th from 7 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock at noon, with shredding taking place at the headquarters Dudley School on 6th in Maryland. We are going to be doing that from 10 to 12. The signs have gone up at all of the locations, at Scenic and Indian Wells, on the Walker Boulevard, and also on Walker Avenue. Did I say that already?
Walker Road.
Walker Road, and then there's 3.
10th
Panorama, thank you.
and 10th and Scenic, First Nazarene Church.
Okay, and first in, on the corner of 10th, and that's at the Nazarene Church. So I had asked Adam from the Chamber of Commerce to do an aerial, and that will be out there also, so people will see the location. But this is like the final, and so we will let you know at the next meeting how it came out.
Okay. Well, we had the 4th of July last week. We had the parade, for those of you that saw that. From what I remember of it, it turned out well. I was in a little bit of a fog, but, and then If you were at the Chamber of Commerce afterwards, you saw the new rocket out there. I'm assuming it's still out there. Somebody didn't take it, right? It's still there. Okay. Anyway, there's a new rocket. Sorry, Cooney, I had to say it. Anyway, there's a new rocket out there. They're doing sort of a rocket relaunch at the Chamber of Commerce, and they're kind of going back old school. So if you haven't had a chance to get down there and check it out, go check it out. It's pretty cool. And then on Saturday of last week, I attended the grand opening for the
It's a Joy Center.
Joy Christian Center, however they say it. Anyway, they just built a new building out there on Highway 54, which is really cool for that area because there's not a lot out there, but it's pretty cool, and so you can't miss it when you drive by. It's right off of Highway 54 on Wright Avenue. Beautiful building, and I feel like it was just yesterday they broke ground, but it's really been about 2.5 years. So that was exciting to be in attendance for that. And I feel like there was something else I was supposed to mention, and I can't remember what it is, so hopefully whatever it is, it'll come up. But anyway, that was all for last week. Does anybody have anything else?
Well, I was just going to say, I had a float in the parade that day.
I saw you walking around giving out your flyers, yes.
And I just thought it was a little bit of I don't know. When you do a float, it's just amazing how much stuff dies before you get it out on the road. So, but it was very nice, and I appreciate the fact that it was announcing the citywide cleanup.
Yeah,
too.
and I should mention too that we should give one more shout out to the Air Force Sergeants Association for taking that over, because honestly, we probably wouldn't have had a 4th of July parade this year if it hadn't been for them. So thank you again for that, because I think there was a great turnout, and so it's very clear that people look forward to that every year. And with that, we will move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they want to pull off the consent agenda?
I need to pull item 5.
Okay, we're going to pull off item 5. Anything else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 5?
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Robinson. I am so sorry. I was really sick last week. I apologize, guys. I'm trying. A motion from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Warren Robinson,
Aye.
Mark Tapley,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We'll move on to the item removed from the consent agenda, item 5.
Oh, I just pulled it, Stella had a deal on there that she needed to clarify, and then I had, I just want to see if any of y'all have an issue with me voting on it. I have a contract right now that I'm doing where we're putting a building up that Shannon is actually the permit holder on. And I just want to make sure that it's out there, that there's a potential conflict.
It's not this building.
No, it's not this building. It's a totally different building, and we're actually, our contract's with the owner, not with Shannon, but he's the permit holder. So I just want to make sure if y'all want me to abstain, I'll abstain. But just want it
Doesn't
on the
bother
record.
me.
Okay.
Hi.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners, City Manager, Mr. Holden. Yes, item 5, I just wanted to bring to your attention the language that's on the agenda. It is saying, consider and act upon ordinance 1701, case Z-2024-003A for adoption and final first publication. It is final publication.
Yeah.
We apologize for that word first being in there. So just wanted to make it clear and for the record that you will be voting on final publication on this item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, do I have a motion to approve item 5 minus the word first?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Paul? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Warren Robinson,
Aye.
Mark Tapley,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We're going to move on to new business. Item 10, consider and act upon Resolution 2024-48, amending the fee schedule for copies of public records inspected and distributed under the New Mexico Inspection of Public Records Act. And does anybody have any questions on that?
On my item?
Yeah.
Oh, what you're at, okay.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything we need to talk about, or if you just want to explain. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but.
That is up to you. I'm just amending and adding, I think the main things that I am adding on here is increasing the media storage from $5 to $7. That's just going to help with the cost up to the citizen as well as to the city. And just, I just want to point out that I did look at 5 other different cities within the state of New Mexico. They range from $6 to $75, from $6.75 to $20, and so we'd still be amongst the lowest. And I'm also just at changing that language from the larger than 11 by 17. The language now says to be determined by size. So I got together with the planning and zoning manager, which that's where most of those sizes would come from. So we did put an actual size, and we put the from this price to this price. So we actually do have something. Other than that, I mean, those are the biggest changes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 10?
So moved.
A motion from Commissioner Paul, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. What am I doing?
Yep.
Yeah,
The
will
roll
the clerk
call.
please call the roll?
Warren Robinson,
Aye.
Mark Tapley,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We're going to move on to item 11, consider and act upon first publication of ordinance 1705 approving a loan from the New Mexico Finance Authority regarding the year-out contract.
Hi, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. So this is the next step in the year-out process. So last meeting, you guys approved the contract. And as part of the presentation that Tara did, she went over the project financials. And as we discussed, there is a financing part of it. So Chris Muirhead with Modrail Sperling is here. He's our bond counsel, so he's helping us secure the next step, which is the financing through the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority. And as we discussed in the last meeting, this is the debt that would be paid off from the savings that we would see after the modifications are done on the energy performance contract. But in the meantime, we do have to secure it with a gross receipts tax. So we identified the unsecured gross receipts tax that we have going into the general fund. So if any questions for me, and then Chris is also here to answer the more technical questions.
Did great. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
How much, what's our monthly debt service on that going to be for the 5 million?
So, well, the 5 million I overshot. It looks like it's going to be closer to 3.5 million. But Bosque Advisors, which ran your numbers, so with the currently they would look at with the Finance Authority as the lender, annual debt service around $210,000.
A month?
Yeah, annually.
Oh, 210,000 annually
Oh,
for 3.5 million
Over 20 years.
over 20 years?
Yeah. And again, what Evelyn said, which is a good point, the savings from a budgetary standpoint are going to cover this. But from a lender's perspective, they have to have credit security to know that there's an actual revenue source to pay it. And so that's why you're pledging that 0.25% gross receipts tax. But from a budgetary governmental operations, you can proceed with the idea the savings are really what's going to cover this.
Right.
We pledging the whole 0.25% for it?
No,
or-
not the
Oh,
whole
okay, just a
0.25%.
portion of it?
And that is where the nice part about the New Mexico energy performance contracts is the fact that they are certified through the state. So Year Out has to come in every year, certify that we did have the savings to cover the debt service and that we did meet the savings they thought, or otherwise Year Out is required to pay the difference.
The difference, yeah.
I would just throw in, just because it's always important in terms of debt, this is the nice thing about this, where you are just pledging that one increment of gross receipts tax. The Finance Authority, as the lender, has no lien on any other city revenues, and not any property taxes, not any enterprise funds, no other state shared gross receipts tax, no other local option gross receipts tax. They have a lien solely on this one special limited pledge, which is a benefit to the city.
So they have a lien on the whole quarter?
Well, they would take let's be clear about that. They would take a lien on the full quarter, but they would only be intercepting for their debt service the $210,000. They wouldn't take the full, whatever, much larger number it produces.
What does a 0.25% generate us?
About
2 million?
1.2 million.
1.2 million? Okay. I thought 1/8% did that.
No, the quarter does the 1.2.
Okay.
So this approves, when you adopt it next month, if you choose to do that, it would approve an intercept agreement with the Finance Authority, which is a normal thing. It's actually a convenience for the city, to view it that way, where taxation and revenue will pull out the exact amount from that 0.25% from monthly distributions, so that on a semi-annual and annual basis, they can pay debt service. And then the rest of that 0.25% will come to the city monthly. So you will have the roughly $1 million.
In theory.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do we
I had to
trust
say
Tax
it.
revenue is its own issue, yeah.
Had to say it. Okay.
Do we have any, we'll know exact amount of what they should be
Yes.
withholding each month?
Yes, because we'll have the debt schedule that we agree to in the agreement.
Yes, and the intercept agreement will have as an exhibit the exact amount monthly to withdraw down to the penny.
Okay.
And so this ordinance approves the parameters, then the Finance Authority sets the interest rates, and then they'll have a debt service schedule, which will be back and presented to the commission, and that will be tied to the intercept agreement.
Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve item 11?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Robinson. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Warren Robinson,
Aye.
Mark Tapley,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Rudin,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We're going to move on to item 12, discussion regarding recent break-ins.
Honorable Mayor, members of the commission.
Yes.
This item came to me towards the tail end of the pre-meeting agenda last week. I know we've had some issues with some break-ins. I've talked to some of you about some of those. This one in particular involved Gary, and he wanted an opportunity to visit with the commission, and so I had the discussion with Commissioner Reardon. And so at this point, Gary, it's your floor.
I was here a couple months ago about people messing with my trailers. And on the 14th, one of them got stolen. I got it on video and everything. And they did it right at 7 o'clock, took time to saw off the lock I had on it. I recognize the guy. He never worked for me, but I recognized him through some other people I knew that he had been on a crew or something. So I take that video down to the police station, and at first I'm told, well, we don't recognize him. Well, I don't recognize everybody either, but somebody else is going to recognize them, and if it takes them to recognize them, I don't know how that works out as far as, if I can sit there and tell you that so-and-so, that's so-and-so in the picture, or on film, I mean, I expect for somebody to go check it out. I mean, he took off with my trailer, but then later on, they go ahead and tell me that we are looking into it. So they look into it, and then the officer comes to my job where I'm working and tells me, well, it's over with, we can't do anything, blah, blah. So then the police chief goes ahead and text messaged me last week that says it is going on, that there's an active investigation. So I don't know what's going on right now, because I was out fishing, so I never responded back. But what I'm getting at, and I've had numerous rentals broke into, because they're in parts of town where all these break-ins are at. I've sat there, and I've had the police force out there, and one of my employees witnessed this guy trying to break in without doing anything. I wasn't there. Police show up, the guy sits there and points at the house where the guy walked in there, and points at the guy walking. That's just not good enough. You gotta have film, you know? But then if you take the film, then you're told, well, we don't recognize him. Now, I'm sick of it. Just like all these other break-ins going on, it's the same people. The same people that the sheriff's department was all over there on the 1400 block of Florida about 2 months ago with a raid. It's the same people all the time. You can point them out, you can tell them where they live. I mean, why don't they buy a trailer off of Holloman Yard Sales and use a bait trailer like they do in Albuquerque? I mean, I should have had GPS system on my trailer. I did it now on all of them, but that's more cost to me.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I disagree that you should have to spend all that money to
Yeah.
keep your property safe. So I actually disagree with that. I don't think that you should have had to have that,
Yeah.
because I don't think that you should have to spend that kind of money to
But at some point,
secure your
something's got to be
property.
done. I mean, we're getting robbed blind, and these guys just, it's vehicles, it's trailers, it's home break-ins, it's not, bicycles are every day, people got film of people stealing bicycles, and it's the same bunch of people. I know who they are. A lot of people know who they are. What happened to the old-fashioned, let's get some evidence and bust these guys? I mean, yeah, you just can't pull them over on the street for doing nothing, but you can put a bait trailer out there and let them steal it, because it'll be gone in 4 days if you put it in the right part of town. And the right part of town is just about any place. And it doesn't have to be obvious, and it don't have to be like the Roadrunner and Coyote where you put a free birdseed sign up or something, like on the cartoons. But just put something out there and steal it and start getting them off the street.
Actually,
Because it's just getting old.
yeah, the house he referenced over on Florida, the way the sheriff's office were able to catch those people is it was a robbery up in Lincoln County, but they had an AirTag, an Apple AirTag that was on
yeah.
a piece of the merchandise that
reason
they had
they-
stolen.
But
So
then,
maybe
I don't
that,
understand why nothing's being done, to put it bluntly. Maybe something is being done and I'm just not aware of it. But I see these same people, same guys riding around with backpacks and bicycles.
I know.
I see them almost every morning. The other morning, this is another little story, but out there where my shop is located, a gentleman on a fancy motorcycles, a real fast one, he had a little trailer made out of an old shopping cart that he was pulling behind this motorcycle, and it had like a fairly brand new Honda generator on it, a very expensive Honda generator, and he had a mask over his face, and it was very obvious. And it's broad daylight, 6:30, 7 in the morning, riding down Lavelle Road with this. In my eyes, it was more than likely stolen. And
I see stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Surely you guys see a lot of stuff. Not to mention people doing 50 miles an hour and 30 mile an hour zones, and then everybody act all surprised because of all the accidents we're having,
Well, and I think the issue is they clearly have no conscience. I know that sounds funny just to say that, but I mean, because I can watch them, I can be sitting at home and my camera will go, I mean, I run a nonprofit, my goodness, and my camera will go off. And I'll literally watch them jumping the fence, going into the back of our building, and I'm like, do you suppose if I call the police that they're gonna make it there in time? I mean, and I'm just saying that these guys are quick, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so I'm like, and for me, I'm like, well, it's donated stuff, whatever. If you really want it that bad, just take it. But I do know that when you're talking about contractors, and I think that, honestly, for me, I think that affects me the most is the contractors, because they do pour a lot of money into this city, and I do not believe that you should have to spend thousands of dollars to put GPS tracking stuff on your equipment because the same people keep getting away with it. Now, and I will say, in fairness, it is kind of hard to catch them sometimes, and I know that it's frustrating for our officers because it is hard to catch them, and then it's, to me, it's a whole breakdown in the system because they cite them, they arrest them, they throw them in jail, they blink at the judge, they're out the next morning, they're running the streets or whatever it is, and so I know that it's the entire system, you know what I mean? But that's not an excuse. I think that everybody should feel safe knowing that their stuff is secure. And so I do have an issue with it. I do. And I don't know. I know, Cooney, you're here. I don't know if you have anything to say or if you want to say anything or if you're, I 1000% support our officers. I know that, you can look at the police logs any day of the week and there's literally a traffic accident almost every single day. And that alone we know takes probably several hours to deal with. And I don't know if you guys have seen the ones lately, but oh my goodness,
Well, I get
they've
all
been
that,
crazy.
how do you, in order to get these people
I
to
know.
stop stealing stuff, you got to.
I know. And I don't know what the answer
I look at it
is.
like hunting almost. I mean.
Right.
You gotta, a
Right.
bait trailer's gonna work or something's gonna work if you guys.
I don't
can
know.
get
I don't know if it's that easy. And I get why you don't want to, I get it. I will tell you that, and I've talked about this, but I had to know somebody who, they took a sledgehammer at 4:00 in the morning and busted a hole through their cinder block wall
Yeah.
and crawled into the building and started stealing stuff. And the only reason they left the stuff and ran was because I think they had a sensor or something that went off. And so they finally took off. But that building's connected to the Classic Inn. So, they probably went around the alley and in between the buildings. But I'm like, good. These people are brazen. I mean, you're going to take a
They don't care.
sledgehammer and beat a hole through the wall. I have pictures of it, but
They don't care because.
They don't.
The chances of them getting caught are slim to none. And then, like you say, if they end up in front of a judge, which I'll figure that out, if
Right.
a judge is gonna let somebody loose that broke into my stuff, I'm gonna go talk to that judge.
yeah, well,
But you gotta be able to, I mean, I hate to use the word, trap them, but, I mean, there's ways to catch these people.
I'm not a policeman, so I'm not going to say
Well,
that
they
because I don't
do it-
know if
they-
that works or not.
They use bait cars in Albuquerque.
I know the ACLU would love us, but
Yeah,
I don't, I don't know. I don't know. But I do, you and you called me, we talked about it.
yeah.
I said before I called you, I said, oh my God, I've got to make the call of shame. Because I was so embarrassed and I knew why you were calling because I saw it in the police logs and I was like, oh my God. I've got to call this guy whose trailer just got stolen after he was literally just in front of us, so
mean,
I
know
get
who
it.
I know who the guy is, so if I see him at the lumberyard, I'm gonna ask him for my trailer back.
He might be using it, I don't know.
Just see what happens. What do? Do you just pretend like it didn't happen and walk away and don't ask for your property back? I
It's
mean,
pretty frustrating.
It's beyond frustrating. I mean, it's.
Well, but I
it's-
mean, even a resident, I don't know, they have decorations in front of their house or something, and somebody comes along and now, we're not gonna catch them doing that, but
Yeah.
these people, they come along, they vandalize their stuff, and I'm like, The solution is not to not put yard decorations in your house. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a solution to me. A solution is that, well, I don't even know what the solution to that would be, because people really do lack a conscience. I personally think it got worse after COVID, but they have no conscience anymore, you know? I could watch them on camera. I watched the other day on mine where somebody dropped off a donation, left it at the front of the building, and it was a Sunday, and maybe an hour or so later, the camera went off again, and some guy pulled up on a bike, and I guess he decided he needed it, so he just took it and took off, and I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I can't even, I can't even tell you what he took because they had just donated it, but people just don't seem to care anymore, and it is frustrating. And
Well, it's big ticket items.
It is a big ticket
You look at any
item,
time it's
yes.
pickup trucks, it's motorcycles, it's not
Right.
bicycles and skateboards and stuff. And I've had rentals where they've kicked in the doors. I've lost tenants because of that, because it was just too dangerous to live there on the 1500 block of Florida. I own some houses there. I had tenants just leave. They said, we can't live in this neighborhood anymore. But, I mean, we all know what it is, and it's the same group of people. It's not a bunch of school kids doing this, it's these drug addicts or
I know.
meth heads or whatever you want to call them. And it's gonna get worse, it's not gonna get better on its own. And if people just say, well, don't do anything about it, there's nothing they're gonna,
Well,
why are they gonna stop?
And in defense, I see more people talking about it on social media and then saying, well, then when people tell them, well, did you call the police? They're like, well, the police aren't going to do anything. Okay, well, you're right. They're not going to do anything if you don't call the police. And so we do have a lot of that too. And that doesn't help the situation at all. So I know that there's frustration on both sides, and Cooney is now getting up. And so I'm assuming he's going to say something. Yes? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. David Kunihiro, Police Chief. First and foremost, I just want to, for the record, I want you to know that we are both going towards the same goal. That's the police department and we're headed. We want to catch the criminals and put them away. I assure you that. So we are headed in the same direction. Just to Commissioner Rardon's I guess, example or what you saw the other day out on Lavelle Road. I think you said motorcycle, bicycle, brand new generator, a very expensive generator.
Yes.
So unfortunately for us, that doesn't generate reasonable suspicion because you potentially or we see somebody that seems out of place. That doesn't give us the right legally to stop them, right? We can always approach them and ask for a consensual encounter. But if they tell us to pound sand, we have no report of said generator being stolen where our hands are tied. Yeah. I don't want to speak on the record about your investigation, but an investigation requires, in order for us to charge somebody, it involves probable cause. We've got to get to that level to criminally charge them with something. If we don't get to probable cause, we should not be making any arrest or making a charge or getting to that charge. Some things that hinder us when it comes to burglaries, when we start doing DNA collection, fingerprint collection, and things of that nature, is we're hindered by the state labs. They will not process DNA for even felony crimes unless they're violent felonies. So, hypothetically, we have a burglary where I've personally worked one auto burglary, coffee cup left on the dashboard back in the 07-08 timeframe, sent it up to the lab. A year and a half to 2 years later, got the DNA hit, was eventually able to charge the suspect. The state lab will not even accept that now.
Yeah.
So we can collect it, but we can do nothing with it. And so again, thus tying our hands a little bit, frustrating the victims of the community who don't get justice because they've lost something and potentially don't ever get it back or any restitution. So I just wanted to kind of explain that and tell Mr. Trenko again that I'm sorry for the miscommunication. I was told that the investigation was ongoing. And so I will look into that matter tomorrow, for sure, but other than that.
So,
Look, I was getting at on a bait trailer, just like, you know, they do it in other parts of the state. If you had something out there with the intention of catching one of these guys, to me, that just makes a lot of sense, you know? I mean, if they hook up to a trailer, know that somebody's looking at a screen and saying, hey, the trailer's leaving, somebody's taking it, I mean, catch them red-handed.
So I think there's some operations that we might be able to, depending on legal opinions, whether bait trailers, bait cars are entrapping or not. That would be a legal opinion that I don't
why I
have
sort
that
of meant to
expertise
be
in.
ACLU,
But,
yeah.
you know, there are certain things or operations. I will say that we're looking to see how we can add potentially civilian staff to help force multiply, get more eyes out there. We are, I've recently put an officer in community relations, and we are bringing back Neighborhood Watch. So very shortly, we'll start to see some posts and some communications with trying to form Neighborhood Watches again. We used to have about 22 Neighborhood Watch, I guess, districts or whatever we want to call them. That, for some reason, kind of went away. I want to bring that back. I want to see how we can get the community's support and help with extra eyes, right? Because just realistically, we can't be everywhere. A lot of people have Ring cameras. A lot of people have a lot of things that can help. So if we can start to communicate with the public and get Neighborhood Watches, the way it's designed is that opens up the levels of communication, the lines of communication there, and hopefully we can start to just.
So let me ask you about that, because I actually think we should have a business watch also. Okay, so if you had let's say you have a neighborhood watch, and a neighbor sees somebody breaking into a neighbor's house, right? And then they call the police. So then what?
So a crime in progress, I would urge you to either call 911 or call the police department, depending
Right.
on. Don't go to your neighborhood watch. I think they're called captains. So
Right.
neighborhoods are designed, and you kind of have one person. I think that the neighborhood designs or designates a captain, who is kind of the go-between between the police department. As far as just things like Commissioner Ryden said, you know, there was a gentleman riding a bike down the street, had a brand new generator on it. Hey, anyone missing a generator, right? They kind of generate those topics of discussion within their neighborhood watch group. And then the captain of that group kind of communicates with the police department. So we don't have, 50 people communicating with one officer. It's kind of streamlined. But a crime in progress, I would say you call the police department then.
Right.
Because that's the best chance we have of catching somebody.
And what if they're listening to the scanner?
most of them do.
I know.
Is there a way that
Yes.
you
That's the
guys,
same thing, that's the same thing I had on, my employee was on 1510 Florida, remodeling that house because I own it, I also own the house at 1512 Florida. The guy was trying to kick in the door, he called the police department. 20 minutes later, the police department shows up, we're pointing at the house where the guy went, and they're saying,
With-
didn't do nothing.
with the Ring cameras, is there a way, I'm not sure how those work, like I put one at my house because we have some shady neighbors that have kind of moved in the neighborhood, and and I get notifications that are within a certain range of my camera, and it says, either a lost dog or somebody's stealing, breaking into cars, or they actually caught a guy from 2 streets down, checking cars and stealing change out of it. But, so there is sort of a neighborhood watch with the Ring cameras. But is there a way that we could have somebody at DPS that could monitor? I'm not sure how that would work, honestly. It would almost have to involve the Ring company sending the information to you guys anytime it comes in.
Correct. So I get those notifications because I also have a Ring. At some point in time, and I was told recently they did away with it, there was a program per se that Ring would give police access to those. But I don't know anything more about it, but I was told it went away, which probably because there's probably invasion of privacy without owner's consent, and I don't know how that was all set up. So I don't think that's an option anymore. to
Okay.
monitor those.
Yeah, I just get the notifications when somebody posts something to, they'll say, hey, so-and-so in this area, and then it'll tell you a general area of where it's at. But, and like the gentleman the other morning with the motorcycle, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I figured by the time I call you guys, have you come out to check this guy out, he's gonna be gone anyway. I could tell he was up to no good. Like I say, he had a full mask on his face, hoodie on, and your probable cause with that gentleman was his illegal trailer pulling with his crotch rocket,
Okay.
It's.
So
yeah.
again, if suspicious activity just in and of itself, we've got to have a reasonable suspicion that a crime's committed. So
Right.
if in that case a crime was being committed, yes, we can detain
Okay.
for investigation
I got
purposes.
you. And then like the other, there's a group of them, and I've noticed them out in that area, is, that, they're in 3 or 4 different vehicles, but like they've had this little motorcycle, and there was a Hispanic lady and then a white guy with tattoos all over his face, and the other morning I'm pulling into my office, and he's sitting on the motorcycle, holding on to the side of this Ford truck. She's driving with 2 kids in the back, and he's basically being towed by the truck. The engine's not running on the motorcycle. I mean, is that, and it's obvious, it's the same 2 kids I see with their backpacks every morning riding down, I don't know what that street is out there, Mayflower. I see them heading down towards those trailer courts down there, and I see them almost 2 or 3 times a week with their backpacks at 5:30 in the morning. I doubt they're heading for school,
Sure.
But I just didn't know, I mean.
Have you ever called that in as suspicious?
I haven't, honestly.
So
like
you
I say,
can call it in, anyone can call it in and remain anonymous
Yeah,
if you don't want to provide information to. If we don't ever know about it, we can't be in that area, especially if you're reporting potentially that you're seeing it multiple times a week. I would encourage you to let
Okay.
dispatch know, let's get some reports started so
Okay.
we can be in the area. The more you report it, the more we can build in an investigation.
And out there in that area, and I just know because I have property out there, but they're coming down Mayflower Drive, and now that, Tommy Harrow built that new Allsups and all that stuff there, I think that street's called Gray Street. It's right there by that trailer court. I think they come down Mayflower, they're turning on Gray, and then they've kind of cut a road through there that kind of ties into that alley there on Walker, and then they can shoot across. So I don't know if they're coming down Mayflower to go across over to Walkertown, or if they're going to that trailer court there on Gray Street. But, that's kind of my question too, is what would we recommend that the general public do when they see this kind of stuff?
Report suspicious activity or crimes.
Okay, and that's all we can do?
Please report it.
Just to report it.
A lot of times, if you feel comfortable from a safe location or whatever, if you feel comfortable with following, getting license plate information, general information, then I would say the more information we get, the better. But if you're not comfortable with it, just as much as you can.
These
give.
guys know the other morning there was the same group, but they were in like an expedition, but they had something covering their license plate.
Okay.
So you couldn't even get that information off
Sure.
of them. So, I mean, they're
Well,
fairly.
covered license plate, then we have some traffic laws, right?
Well, they
They've got-
had one of those deals that goes in your trailer hitch so you can store stuff on there, like a little, it's not a trailer, but it just, a little
Well,
basket type deal.
The
He had one of
registration has
those.
to be displayed and visible. So there's things,
Okay.
if
okay.
the officer's very familiar with traffic laws and stuff, there's things that we can do.
Okay.
But we've got to.
I think I did actually call that one in, because the lady was pretending to walk her dogs in front of my office and the neighbor's office.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I saw her, this car comes up, picks her up real quick, and they take off. And I called that one in, but by the time you guys got there, I think they were gone already.
Sure.
So.
Okay, so I have another question too. Because in no way am suggesting this is all the officers. And as a matter of fact, I personally think it goes beyond that. And I think, obviously, our laws are terrible. I'm just going to be honest. The bail reform law was the worst thing that ever happened to our state, and it has gotten completely out of hand. However, I do think that, and I guess maybe this is a question for Ashley or Rick, I don't know, but I think it is incumbent upon us to at least do what we can, right, as a city, and I don't know the rate of prosecutions, I don't know any of that, but are we Because I said this a little while ago, I also feel like if our officers are going to take the time to cite them or whatever, even though we know that ultimately, because our laws stink so bad, that, they may get off with a slap on the wrist, they may, who knows, right? I had a situation the other day where a guy was, texting me incessant, literally 14 hours straight, every 3 minutes for like 14 hours he texted me, and he wouldn't stop. And I get why there's not a lot we can do, especially in that case, because I think there's probably some mental health issues there. But do we still do everything we can, even if we know that they're ultimately going to go in front of a judge who's probably just going to let them out anyway? I guess that's worth asking the question, so.
I mean, first off, obviously it depends on the dollar amount, right? Because our court only handles less than 500, I believe. 240, right.
And what is that
249.
one? Municipal court?
yeah.
Yeah. Anything above that would either be magistrate or district
Magistrate,
court.
Depending on how much it is, yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously, we have no control over what the DAs do or how they prosecute. I know that for us, we have been, taking those, when we get, the few that we get, we have been taking them to trial, or taking them before the judge, I should say, at least. A lot of those, there isn't necessarily a lesser included for us to be able to even plea that down. So usually the plea, and I say usually because I can't guarantee, but usually it's, you can plead no contest and argue, and, state your thing to the judge, or we go to trial.
I do follow the police logs, and we definitely have some people that are like a revolving door, for sure, to the point where I'm almost like, why are we even bothering? Seriously, like, there's one woman that's in the police logs, and I'm like, why are we even bothering to do this? Is the dumbest thing ever. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of resources. However, I guess if we don't do it, then it just makes us look bad as a city. You know what I mean? Because at least I guess we're saying, well, we're doing everything we can, and then it's up to the judge. I don't know. Am I wrong thinking that, or?
No, I mean, the only thing we can, obviously even my office, the only thing we can do is take it to the judge. It's up to the judge on the sentencings, and I can honestly say that we're not afraid to go to trial. We do have a contract, but our contract attorney isn't afraid to go to trial either.
Right.
It's just, and with something like this, or like any kind of theft, larceny stuff, typically that we don't offer a whole lot of pleas on those types of cases, unless it's like a first offense, never seen this person before, has zero criminal history. Then we might offer them like a deferred on our end. It's still a conviction, right? So like a deferred sentence for us is still a conviction. But really those are like the exceptions. But if it's like the people that you said, the ones that are frequent flyers, constantly see, we take them before the judge, and that's all.
Yeah, I just know I have literally been the victim of a crime. I had a child that was a victim of the crime, and I can just tell you that regardless of what the crime is, the only way you even feel the slightest bit vindicated is to know that somebody is doing something, or that, justice is not always going to be served in the way that it should. It's just not. And that's just, this isn't Law and Order, and we don't solve crimes in an hour, and I get all that. But the only way you feel any real vindication is to know that you've got people that are at least fighting for it. And I get that, sometimes the crime is like this, and sometimes the crime is like this. Like, I've been a victim of a crime that was like this, so I know how it feels, and I never felt vindicated. And so my point is like, I understand why people get frustrated. I understand why you're frustrated. You're the victim of a crime. You've worked hard for that trailer. This isn't the first time this has happened. And you feel like nothing's being done. And so I'm sure you can understand how he feels. And that's how I feel. I get angry. I mean, it's not even my trailer. And when I saw that, I just, I was so mad because I'm like, you've got to be kidding. Again, we're going to do this again. Like, when is this going to, ultimately, it's the person that took your trailer that's, right? I mean, but as a victim, you deserve some kind of like attention or some kind of effort being made. And when you don't feel like you're getting that, I'm not suggesting that's not happening, but when you don't feel like you're getting that, yeah, you do get frustrated.
Well, 6 years ago, I was robbed for about $70,000 worth of stuff. And it took a lot of my work to recoup it. I'm the one that dealt with the Las Cruces Police Department, the sheriff, Alamogordo Police Department, and the parole office, and put a bunch of the pieces together. So I've been a victim a couple times, but what I'm getting at, you might not be able to catch these people stealing something, but you might be able to catch them dealing meth or something. And if you got a house where you know where all this is happening, maybe it can turn into a drug bust, and when you do the drug bust, maybe the house is full of a bunch of stolen stuff. I mean, at some point, you can pull a guy, you can get a guy for jaywalking if you want to. It's nitpicky, but it's, you can still do it. There's other ways to get to these guys.
Right.
You
Yeah, I know.
That's where I'm at. To me, it's a critical thing here in Alamogordo. It's an everyday occurrence for people to get stuff stolen, big ticket items.
Right.
And I don't hear, maybe a lot of them get recovered, but I don't hear of a lot of stuff getting recovered. But
I don't think a lot gets recovered, does it? Unfortunately.
I had a quick question for Cooney too. As far as like fingerprints and DNA and that type of stuff, does it have to go through the state up there, crime lab, or is that something, is there other entities that do that type of stuff?
So there are private companies that, very rarely have we ever utilized those. They're very costly.
Okay.
And so without a large budget for that to send it elsewhere, the state crime labs that we have around the state crime labs are our option.
But like the private entities that do it, that'll still uphold, it will stand up in court, like if they determine it?
So potentially. So then you start to go into whether or not the DA's office then if it's felony level, if it's in the district attorney's office, if they are willing to have them come testify and pay them the expert witness fees and things of that nature. There's a lot of, it all revolves around this.
Around money, okay. So it's better to use the crime lab because at least then they'll have to.
That's been our only resource for the most part, unless we're dealing with like most violent crimes and things of that nature that need secondary testing, or for certain cell phones, some things we have to send off because of that.
Okay, and they don't really want to mess with, like, this is a big deal, but it's, in their eyes, it's really not.
I can't put words in their mouth. My understanding of it is that they have so many violent crimes going on that everything else is on the back burner, and they just, because the violent crime doesn't stop, they cannot take in the nonviolent felony crimes.
Is there only one lab in the whole state? Or?
No, there's lab in Santa Fe, there's a lab in Cruces, Mesilla, really. There's one in Hobbs. There's at least 3.
There's 3.
There might be a 4th, but I think Albuquerque has their own. So I think
Albuquerque,
there's at least 3.
Probably. That's why I figured Albuquerque's probably the one taking up all the resources.
And I do feel like some of this really needs to be fought at the state level. I really do. I think that, when we were talking about these ordinances, the juvenile ordinances, do you know there's only 4 juvenile facilities in the entire state of New Mexico? 4. Can you imagine? And so we have juveniles out there committing crimes. They're laughing at our officers and they're going home to their parents. And because we only have 4 juvenile facilities in the entire state. So I think in some ways our hands are tied. I do think some of this has to be fought at a state level, and And that's where I'm concentrating a lot of my efforts because, will it do any good? I have no idea, but I'm not going to stop doing it just because I don't think it'll do any good. And I think that's where, things like Neighborhood Watch, I think that's a great idea. I know that I met with a group that has started a Businesses for a Safer Las Cruces, and they're making some headway in terms of, they're watching out for each other and taking pictures and paying attention to what's going on. And so I think maybe that's sort of the angle, we need to go. I think that's part of the direction. I'm not saying that will solve the problem, but we need to watch out for each other because I think there is no possible way with the nonsense that goes on in this community in terms of, stealing and that kind of thing. There's no possible way that our officers can do it all, and I totally get that. And so, and I really am sorry that happened to you. That's,
like I said, I just wish that.
you're still handling it better than I would have, so I'm just saying.
Just when you can point at a house and say, there's gotta be some way to, do some undercover work or something and set up a drug bust on it. That one thing leads to another is what I'm getting at. You
Yeah.
might not catch them stealing a car, but you might catch them by doing other things.
Right. And I can't speak to that because I am not a police officer, so I
It
don't
just
know what the
makes sense
legalities
to
of
me.
that are, so,
You know?
yeah. But I get it.
I look at it,
One other-
how to get somebody.
Yeah. One other quick deal too is you're mentioning like a business watch or, the watch groups around, but is there something we might be able to do like on the city's website where if there's the petty stuff like this, like the gentleman on the motorcycle, where it could be reported to where you guys can go in and look at it, but it may not tie up your time going and physically looking at it. You know what I mean? I don't know if, that
We
way.
have online reporting that
Similar.
does that, yeah.
Is it something though that like business owners could go in and
So
look?
I was trying to do some research on that. No one seems to remember. I thought at some point in time we had some kind of business community type thing to
thought we
where
did too, yeah.
the business partners, they all could communicate somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it was explained to me is like, you own a business, and it may not be something, it's kind of like Neighborhood Watch. So you might see something kind of suspicious, but you don't call the police for whatever reason, you don't see them committing a crime, but you pop a picture of it and you kind of share it with your business community. And then someone else is like, hey, that's a guy from my shoplifting, and that's this guy's name, right? And so it's just kind of information sharing.
And it kind of helps you guys because it
Absolutely.
may take a crime from over here and over here and over here
Absolutely,
and put all the pieces together to where you can identify them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think,
because I do that on occasion. If I see somebody shady out there, I'll snap a picture of them just in case,
Sure.
and I'll have it, or my cameras might catch it, But
yeah,
but just-
I really believe that is,
that's going to be the answer. Is
I think
getting
that's
community
the answer.
involvement. Yeah.
That's what I've been working on because I think we cannot, like I said, when I read the police logs and I'm like, oh, look, another 2 accidents today. And I am fully aware that those accidents take, and I don't mean to keep bringing them up, but it takes, sometimes several hours just to wrap up an accident, right? And so that takes our resources. And so I really do believe that the solution is to get our business owners to work for each other, to help each other out, you know what I mean? And there can be an organized way to do it, but I think that I think everybody should be watching out for each other. I mean, I think as long as, and I think the key is to feel confident knowing that if you're going to go through all that they can turn that over and something will be done. You know what I mean? And I'm confident that would happen. So
If it meets certain criteria.
if it meets certain criteria, of course.
And that's kind of already happening. And so, and I won't mention any names, of course, but other businesses, we share that information. So that's already happening to a certain extent. But at the same time, what good is that if everybody knows, hey, this same guy robbed me, this same guy robbed me? but still nothing happened.
Right, but I think it's more than that. I think it's literally like watching out for each other, like not just, hey, I got robbed, that kind of thing. But I mean literally like a neighborhood watch, like you're watching out for each other. I think that could potentially be effective. Because you can't be at your business or your job site all the time, right? But maybe somebody else is working across the street that can help keep an eye on it or
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, I think,
But I understand what you're saying, but that's still, even where my trailer's parked, there's a police officer lives from here to the door across the alley is his house, and my trailer's right here. So that's the ideal neighborhood watch, but he still didn't see anything.
right.
And so I get what you're saying, but I don't get what you're saying. You know, I understand what you're saying, but it just, something's gotta happen to shut these people down.
Yeah, again, I don't know, I'm not sure what that answer is. I don't know what that looks like, and I know that, because everybody's so sue happy these days, I know that legally there's things that, it sounds simple, and maybe at one time something like that would have worked, but I don't know that it's that easy now, and so, you know, it's a matter of doing it while still protecting the liability of the city,
I
right? So,
understand that, yeah, but I think it's worth looking into, because Albuquerque does it.
Yeah. And maybe they are. I don't know. I don't think Cooney should be divulging all his secrets either. So, you know, maybe there's, and I will say that I tell people that a lot because people will call me and they'll be like, this happened and this happened and this happened. And I'm always like, listen, I'm not going to get in the middle of that. Let's just see how this plays out because I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You know what I mean? And so, and we don't know. And sometimes I'm pretty surprised because I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what happened or whatever, right? And so I think, but I appreciate you coming and talking to us. I really do. I am so sorry about your trailer. I wish I could find your
No,
darn
it's not-
trailer, Gary.
It's
I
not the
really
trailer.
do.
It's just,
It
that it just
just-
keeps happening. I mean, the
Right.
trailer's just a trailer, but.
I know,
just
but
hate
it's
the
still
fact that
frustrating.
I expect to get robbed anymore.
Yeah, I know,
You
I
know.
know, I get it.
No matter how I protect my stuff, I expect to get robbed. And that's, those other business people in town that feel the same way. We're expecting to be robbed because they're just running rampant
I know,
through the city, taking what they want when they want.
yeah.
But I appreciate it.
All right, thank
All right,
you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Why am I kind of, we're still having a, yeah, okay. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive closed session in compliance with 10-15-1 as amended to discuss pending litigation regarding various tort claims. Do I have a motion to adjourn? A motion from Mayor Pro Tem McDonald. Do I have a second?
A second.
A second from Commissioner Tapley. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Warren Robertson,
Aye.
Mark Tapley,
Aye.
Nick Paul,
Aye.
Stephen Burnett,
Aye.
Josh Rudin,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Susan Payne.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.
We will go to the finance conference room.